God, these Aiden that came in, if you're lying to do something, didn't even do something.
In this week's Parshas Lech Lecha, we find the second mitzvah in the Torah, the mitzvah of Milah. In the mitzvah of Milah, there are three parts. The mitzvah of Milah, which is to cut the outer foreskin. The mitzvah, part of it is Priya, which is to remove the foreskin, which is closer inside the makasal, it's called. And then these mitzitza, Milah, Priya, Mitzitza. That's parts in the mitzvah of Milah. In today's shir, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to discuss and explain the mitzvah of Milah, and to define exactly what the Torah means when the Torah says the mitzvah of Milah. What is included in the mitzvah of Milah, the first part of the mitzvah? In this week's parsha, the pasuk says, Zois berisi asher tishmeru beinu veinechem uvein zeracha acharecha himoy lachem kol zachar. The Torah is big arichas in Milah, but this is the pasuk how the chinuch brings where we learn the mitzvah of Milah. Himoy lachem kol zachar. There's a mitzvah in the Torah given to a father, that the father should do a Milah on his son. We're going to try to explain and elaborate what exactly is the mitzvah of Milah, which we understand means, for a davar pashat, Milah means to remove the foreskin, the outer skin that covers the atara. There could be a whole shir exactly in detail, but you have to remove the outer skin, the Orlah, that covers the top part of the aver, the atara. The question is there any particular and specific way that the Torah wants that we should do it? It should be removed. Is there any particular way how to remove it? Or as long as it's removed, it's enough, and you'll makayim the mitzvah of Milah? Shulchan Aruch in Sif Reish Samach Daled and Yeridei Halachos Milah, the Shulchan Aruch Sif Gimel, the famous Sif and Halachos Milah describing how to do Milah. The Shulchan Aruch says, Keitzad Molen. How do you do Milah? How do you do the mitzvah of Milah? Choytchen es Orlah. You have to cut off the Orlah, the outer foreskin. What do you cut off? Kol ha'oir ha'chayfa atara. All the foreskin that covers the atara, you have to cut off. How much? Achetiskalo atara. Which means in Milah, how much do you have to cut off? You have to cut off as much Orlah which covers the atara, the top part. That's how much you have to cut off. So what do we see? We see Milah, the mitzvah of Milah, the first part of the mitzvah, to cut off, is to take a knife, a izmal, an instrument, and cut off, remove the Orlah by cutting it off. Right? Chaytchen as a Orlah, kol ha'oirachayt, you cut it off, all the foreskin that's covering the atara. To illustrate this point and to bring it out lamaisa, what happens if a moyel cut, but he didn't cut enough? He did a Maisa Milah, he cut off, but he didn't cut off all the Oir Ha'orlah covering the Atara. He didn't cut enough. Now, usually what would happen is that anyway, since it's pulled up, once you cut, it falls down, and that Oir Ha'orlah, that outer foreskin, no longer is covering the Atara anyways. So it's removed, it's nizgala atara, it's no longer covering the atara, but where is that oira arla? Where is that foreskin? It's still attached to the baby, it's still there, it just fell down, it's lower down. So which means you removed it from the atara, but even though you removed it from the atara, it's still attached. You didn't remove it by cutting it off. Do you have to cut it off, or as long as it's removed, it's enough? The Shulchan Aruch says you have to cut off all that's there. Do you have to cut the whole thing off, or as long as it goes down, it's enough? And again, this is a pretty practical shaila, which it takes a lot of talent to be able to experience, to be able to get to the shear. If you don't cut enough, it's still going to fall down, and if the hatar is going to be nisgala, but you didn't cut enough, is that enough? The shita of the Chachmas Adam, the Chachmas Adam and Hilchas Milah, Klal Kuf Mem Tes, Sif Yud Zayin. The Chachmas Adam, I'm going to read the lashon. The Chachmas Adam says that in such a case that one cut, but he did not cut enough, the kid is an oral min atayra. The kid is an oral min atayra. I'll read the lashon. Umizeh tira hara'ah hagadoyla. Mahamoylem. We'll see the bad thing of, in those days, the moylem she'enam bekiyim. They were not experienced. V'choitchen rak miyut mahabasar. They only cut off a little bit of the Orlah. Miyut mahabasar shar Orlah ve'marilem min atayra. Meaning to say, even though after cutting it fell down, and of course it's nisgala atar, which means that atar is uncovered. Because if it's not uncovered, that's what we have a different than in the Shulchan Aruch. It's tzitz and a ma'akfin, and it's not a proper milah. But he's speaking about you cut. You didn't cut enough, and it fell down, but you didn't cut it. So the Chachmas Adam calls such a baby a oral min atayra. In Sefer Binas Adam, which is the Chachmas Adam, usually it's in the back of the Chachmas Adam. So he says in Shar Rina of Yeshua, when he has on Milan, on Pedin Aben, I'll quote the lashon over there also, the Imloi Chatchai, which means you didn't cut off, not just remove, but you didn't cut off the proper amount. Kol Oir HaOrlah Chayfar Atara. It's not enough just to cut, and then once you cut, it's taken care of. If you didn't remove Kol Oir HaOrlah Chayfar Atara, Lo Yimimoil Min Atayra. It's pretty sharp. He goes with rayas, but he says it's not a milah. You're not yoytze the Mitzvah's milah. That's the shitas the Chachmas Adam. The same is also the Chamude Daniel. The Chamude Daniel, it's brought in the Piskei Tshuva over here. Sivkat and Yud Gimel. I read you the lashon. Yesh moilim she'enim chaytchin rak ma'at ma'oira arla. They only cut a little bit, not the whole shear that's needed. Umesaknin ze'al yidei priya. Which means either it falls down, or later on when you get to part 2, to priya, which we're not speaking about, but the priya is a part where you push down the inner skin, which is the foreskin, but the inner one. You tear it, you push it down. While pushing it down, you push down the extra oir ha'orla also. So he says that's a problem. It's a problem. And he says, like it's mashman the Shulchan Aruch. We began the Lashon Shulchan Aruch is, what is the definition of milah? Milah is to cut off all the oir ha'orla. That's what milah is. You have to remove, not just remove it from the atar, from the top, but you actually have to cut it off. So what are these moilim doing by just cutting a little bit and the remainder falls down? So far we have the Shitas Chachmas Adam that holds that in Milah, when the Torah gave the mitzvah of Milah is to remove the Orlah by cutting it off, and you have to cut off the amount that's Megala da Torah. That's how much you have to cut off. If you cut off less than that, you are not Yotzei the mitzvah Milah. The Idach, the Cholkim, Uberoisham, the Divrei Chaim. The Divrei Chaim has tshuvas from tshuva Kuf Yud Dalet to Kuf Yud Ches, a whole bunch of tshuvas arguing on this Chachmas Adam. What the Chachmas Adam says, that if one doesn't cut enough, the baby's a oral min atayra. Says the Divrei Chaim that enachanami litchatchila, one should make sure that when cutting it should be cut enough. And cut enough means to cut off all the oir ha'orla that's covering on top. Cut off, you should cut enough. Whatever the shear is that's needed to uncover that Torah, that's how much you have to cut l'tchatchila. But b'di'evid, which means if the moil didn't cut enough, b'di'evid to call the baby a oral min Torah, that's incorrect. I'll just read you the lashon. he's very against that once it was done, and it's properly done, it's enough to go back and to cut more, which is Tzara di Yenuka. He says that's not the right thing to do. Again, l'tchatchila, do it properly. Make sure to cut off the shear. That's the l'tchatchila. But if it was done already, and especially sometimes it's complicated to go back to get to do the whole shear, his lashon is chas v'shalom l'tzar hayeled hanimoil timetzar the baby lachzor v'lachtoich to go back and to cut more. V'hanach lem liyisrael b'menhagam atayv, leave Klal Yisrael with that minig b'mitzvah shekablu b'simcha v'oisim b'simcha. You don't go back. If it's once the Torah was uncovered, it's enough. In another tshuva, read the lashon v'adil l'tchatchila, he says to remove everything. Avol b'di'evad ein shum mitzvah lichrois ha'arla shenafel lamata, which means if it falls down, it's no longer covering that Torah. You don't have to cut it off. V'adarabba ha'oise zois, somebody who does go back and trims and cuts the remainder that fell down. Roitzeach v'choishesh ani, that he's from Amalek. That's how weit he goes. L'tchatchila, you should be careful. But that's what the Divrei Chaim says. So we have a pretty serious machlokes in the essence of Milah, which Milah is to remove the Orlah. If one removed it, but did not take the whole Orlah that covers that Torah off the baby's body, is that a proper Milah or not? Then Chachmas Adam calls that not a proper Milah at all, and the baby is an oral min HaTorah. And the Divrei Chaim says no. L'tchatchila, you should try and go and do it. But if you don't do it, you're yoitza. You're yoitza, and you shouldn't even go back. Others go with the Divrei Chaim as well. The Tzemach Tzedek. These Shailas Teshuvas Baram Shik, a Talmud of the Chassam Sofer, which he goes in the Chassam Sofer, which the Divrei Chaim himself brings. We're going to get to it a little later in the Shir. But Pashtus, the Shittas Chassam Sofer is that Milah does not have to be that you cut the whole entire Orlah off. As long as it's removed from that Torah, it's enough. In Arugas Abaysim, he says, we just saw on the Shulchan Aruch says that Milah is that you have to cut off all the Orlah. So if you have to cut off all the Orlah, how could you tell me that you don't have to cut off all the Orlah? It's the Lashon HaShulchan Aruch. We read before very clearly. Keitzad Malan, how do you do Milah? The Shulchan Aruch spells it out clearly. Choytchen es ha'Orlah, you cut off the Orlah, kol ha'oira chayfa ha'Torah. You have to cut off, and you have to cut off all the foreskin that's covering that Torah. So how could you say that you don't have to? So the Arugas Abaysim says the Shulchan Aruch is speaking l'tchatchila, like the Divrei Chaim himself says l'tchatchila you're supposed to remove it all by cutting it off. But even if you don't cut it all off, you're still yoitza. So this is all very nice. A machlokes, it's a machlokes in Milah. You might be looking at me, so why am I saying it? It's negayah to the moilim. And the truth is that it's negayah to everybody, because when you have a boy, it's your mitzvah milah. You make the moil a shliach, but it's your mitzvah. So it's worthwhile knowing what the mitzvah is. That's number one. And number two is it's negayah to this week's parsha, pshat in this week's parsha, in the mitzvah of milah, pshat in the pasuk in the parsha. I just want to make one disclaimer. I meant to say it earlier, that this is chas v'shalom not to be ma'arer on any moilim bizmanenu. I'm saying over a machlokes that was then, and just it's just to learn, to understand the mitzvah of milah, but not chas v'shalom saying if people do cut, don't cut enough. This is the machlokes. How do we translate it negayah l'mais in the parsha? The shaila is, when the Torah says yimoil, what is the definition of yimoil, of milah? Does milah we want to accomplish to be megala da Torah, to open up, it should be uncovered. When the Torah says milah, what does milah mean? Does milah mean removing? Or does milah mean cutting? is the mitzvah removing, and if you remove, you will kind the mitzvah. That's the shita of the Divrei Chaim. As long as you remove the Orlah from the top, even if you don't cut it off, you yoitza. And the Chachmas Adam says no. Milah means to cut. So it's not just you have to make sure Nizgala Atara. You have to cut off the Orlah to accomplish Nizgala Atara. This machlokes in how to understand the pasuk and what the mitzvah is really is the machlokes from the two targums, Targum Onkelos, how to teach the pasuk of Milah. The Targum by us says on Milah, the Targum teaches the lashon. This is gazer, to cut. Milah by us in the parsha of Lech Lecha, the Targum teaches to cut, which really means the mitzvah is you have to cut off all the oir ha'orlah to cut it off. Bi'idach, the pasuk, and this is what the Chassam Sofer brings, which seemingly the Chassam Sofer, the Divrei Chaim brings the Chassam Sofer, that the Chassam Sofer holds that even without cutting it all, you're still yotzeh. The lashon the Chassam Sofer brings from the pasuk in Devarim, Umol Hashem lekechas levavcha. That pasuk, Umol Hashem lekechas levavcha, the Targum teaches not a mol to cut. The Eibush is not going to cut the heart, but a mol actually means to remove. So over there you see umol means removing, and by us umol means to cut. So that's really the machlokes. The machlokes is, what is the mitzvah of milah? Is the mitzvah of milah to remove, or the mitzvah of milah is to cut? However, even though we see clearly the machlokes is removing, which technically you can remove by just pushing it down or it falls down, as opposed to cutting, you have to cut it off, and that's the machlokes. Even the Divrei Chaim agrees. This is very important. First of all, l'tchatchila, to cut the whole thing off. But even b'di'eved, you have to cut a little bit. You for sure have to cut a little bit. Which that's really the question on the Divrei Chaim. If you for sure have to cut a little bit, if gazer means, if milah means to remove, why do you even have to cut a little bit? Why do you even have to cut a little bit? L'chayre, as long as you remove it, should be enough. We'll get to a case, a practical application shortly. Ramosha Sternbach asks that he has a big arichas and Adam Izmanim. Others ask the question, if the Divrei Chaim holds that the mitzvah of milah is removing, what's this l'tchatchila to cut? And what's this b'di'eved to cut a little bit? I'll share with you one of the answers I saw. It's still not so clear, but based on a Maril Diskin that says that everybody agrees that you have to cut at least a little bit. He makes two dinim, but you have to cut a little bit. So even the Divrei Chaim agrees that in the mitzvah of milah it's cutting, like Taka the Targum says, but us cutting. You have to cut. However, besides cutting a little bit, the Divrei Chaim holds the remainder removing is enough. Alright, if you got it, it's good, but let's understand the machlokes is if the mitzvah is removing or if the mitzvah is to cut off. Where is it negeya to remove without cutting off? Which everybody agrees, I wouldn't say everybody, but the pashtus is that in the Divrei Chaim, the pashtus is that the Divrei Chaim holds like that. You for sure have to cut a little bit, even everything, but at least a little bit. Where's the negeya? A practical application would be with a baby that's noiled chatzi mal, which means it's open a little bit. It's open on top a little bit. Usually, most moilim do hafrada, which means they probe the baby before they bring the baby into a room before, which they separate the orla and priya from the gid. They remove it, so then it's easier. For a few things you accomplish, for the milah itself, it makes it easier. Usually that's done by an instrument, by a probe. But if the it's open a little bit on top, you don't even have to use a probe, and it's easier to do in a way that it's sure that it's all opened up. You just push down the skin, you push it down. It's not very uncommon. I've seen it, I've done it. I mean, it's not, you push it down, and when you push it down, you know for sure that it's open. Open meaning to say is that it's detached, and it makes it easier for the bris. They call it a manual afrada, but in other words, you don't have to, you just push it down. Now the question is, in Shevet HaLevi, they asked Rav Wosner, if you do such a type of afrada, which means you push it down, after pushing it down, the baby looks like there was a milah, because it goes beneath the atara. You didn't cut at all. No cutting at all. It was before the milah. They asked Rav Wosner, and the truth is, I had this question the first time I saw somebody doing such a type of afrada. Maybe you should make a bracha before pushing it down, because it's neskalo atara. And maybe later, when you pull it back up, once already it was done, coming back up could even maybe be only a derabanan. So the question is, maybe you should make the bracha earlier, not by the bris itself. Make the bracha when you do the hafrada, when you push it down. So on that, Rav Wosner said, there's no question, you for sure have to cut. Just pushing down before, that's for sure not enough. Milah, the definition of milah is to cut. However, the question is just how much to cut and how much is ma'aka, but you for sure have to cut. So therefore,
push it down, we'll come back up.
what are you saying?
Push it down, we'll come back up eventually.
So that's a good shaila. You're right. And even in other cases, let's say when somebody cuts, and even if somebody cuts, and even if the shear, and if it comes back up. So that's a separate noisa how to deal with it. But it makes it later, could be it's a problem, and you have to fix it again. But in the milah itself, the milah was accomplished.
Temporarily.
So you're asking that what happens in a way that it's not tight enough and it'll come back up. Yeah, that's a noisa for itself. But let's say if it would stay down, technically it could stay down. So technically it could stay down. It was in skala atara. So on that says the Rav Wosner that there's no shaila and you're for sure not yotzei the Mitzvas Milah. What happens in a case of removing it by laser, which the truth is, it would be relevant for an adult, for a ger, about tshuva that didn't have a bris, and instead of going through the whole procedure, you want to remove it by laser without cutting it with a knife. So technically, this would be a step further to wonder, lafida chachmas adam, as long as it's removed, it's okay. I mean, I'm sorry, the Divrei Chaim, it's removed, it's okay. Lafida chachmas adam, you have to cut. But laser, the question is like this. Maybe laser is also a way of cutting. And if it's a way of cutting, so even the Chachmas Adam will agree that you could do laser. Me'idach, if it's not cutting, even the Divrei Chaim would say it's no good because you have to cut a little bit. So, what are you saying? It's burning it off. So is that when these are then cutting? Is that called cutting? Rav Wosner has a different tshuva about it, and he says laser, he doesn't like the idea because it's not the way it was done, and no blood comes out. But technically, it's like Moshe said, it's burning it off. Is that called cutting? Is it cutting or not cutting? If it's not cutting, everybody won't be good. And if it's cutting, the pashtus it should be good. But it's not cutting, you're cutting it, everybody hold. You're cutting off the whole oira chayfa atara.
If you say laser is good, can you use a laser for a shita? So that's a serious question.
It's a good shaila. I don't know Hilchos Shchita, at least not that well, but I hear. Yitzi wants to know if you could do Shchita by laser. We'll have to ask the Moilam. The truth is that in Shchita, there's a lot of dinim also with a knife, and it has to be straight, so you have to know if that causes it to become a treifa. Yeah, that's a sugya for itself, but it's definitely a good question. So just to sum up and be Messiah, we have a machlokes over here in the core essence of the mitzvah of Milah. Is the mitzvah to cut, or the mitzvah is just to remove, even if you don't cut? But we saw even removing, at least a little bit you have to cut. So this is a pretty serious machlokes apoiskim. Lamaisa lahachra, we can't be machriya, but Rav Vozna and another tshuva and Shevet Alevi, in that tshuva also, he says, I'll read you the lashon. The afal pisha nimena machmirim lichrois kol oira arla. I'm makbet to cut off all the arla, all of it. And like he says, today it's easier if you use the guard, so it's not. You just have to make sure to get the shear, put it on the right angle, and get the whole shear. You have to make sure to get the whole shear. But he says, even though I'm mina machmirim v'yesh lahachmer, this is his lashon. V'avalein lintois mina emes the hagoyne machsam sefer, which we said before. The chasam sefer says from the Targum, the chasam sefer v'divrei chayim u'di imam lo yeskimu likrois kazeh aral min haTorah. So we have a machlokes. If one did not cut the whole entire Orlah, is that a proper milah or not? Machlokes achronim, which the Chachmasadim goes so far to call this child the Orlah min haTorah, and the Divrei Chaim says the opposite. Not only is not an Orlah min haTorah, you're not allowed to go back to do it. You're not allowed to go back. You mitzar the kid. But Maisa, to be makbid, it seems from the Shevet Alevi, is machmer, but to be ma'arer on the ones that don't do it, to call the Orlah min haTorah, that already is not the right thing to do, because Lamaisa, the Chasam Sofer, the Divrei Chaim, all say that it's a kosher or milah l'tchatchila, and that's the machlokes. Have a good Shabbos.